speak just, a minute or two on how you found your way into, your connection with the earth, and then tell our listeners what a hedge witch specifically is.
Sure. Well, I was raised very Catholic. My brother was an altar boy. My mother typed the church bulletin. We were Irish Italian Catholics. Priest to dinner once a month. Very involved in the parish with the fairs and collection duties and all of that. But from a very young age, I'm going to say 7 or 8, I always directed my prayers to Mary. There was something about the feminine divine, the idea of a divine mother that I found very comforting, and not to put anything against Jesus or the concept of a heavenly father. And in fact, I embraced the heavenly father as a witch, because we believe that the masculine and feminine divine are equal and equally celebrated and worshipped. However, as a child, it was the feminine divine for me. Later in life, I'm going to say I was in high school. The idea of goddess, exploring the various goddesses through history, the Hindu, the Greek pantheon, which calls many people, wasn't really my path, but the Hinduism, Kali continues to be my patron goddess, and her counterpart Shiva. And later, I would say in my late 20s, early 30s, I worked as a freelance garden writer. I worked at a nursery, and I was putting in herb gardens. And I learned of this garden center and farm called Capperlands in Connecticut. And the woman who owned Capperlands was a witch, and she spoke of the magical properties. And when I began reading her books and learned that they had magical properties to plants and trees, it was like a light went on. And the stones and the oils and the roots and the earth itself. The idea that magic surrounds us, and it's all energy, but we can work with it, we can manipulate it, we can bend it to our will. That is magic. When you bend energy to your will with intent, that's magic. That's the definition, or a definition, I suppose. I found after my divorce, it's very hard to be a divorced Catholic, and by that time I had some difficulties with some hypocrisies that I felt existed within the church for myself. At my shop, I celebrate universal spirituality, and most of my patrons would call themselves mystic Christians, people that follow the path of the Christ, but they're open to divination, past life, energy work, a lot of yoga teachers, a lot of Reiki masters and Reiki practitioners. But for me, the path of the hedge witch, when I began really to study and learn, because there are so many paths under the framework or the umbrella of witchcraft or Wicca. And for me, and the way I practice, hedge witchery made the most sense, felt like coming home, and really worked. And hedge witchery is the oldest, eclectic, solitary path of witchcraft. In the old days, they were the people that lived on the edge of the community, beyond the hedgerow that enclosed most European communities. And they lived by the herbs, nature, prophecy, divination, magic, and healing. They served the community through midwifery, healing, protection, house blessings, crop and livestock preservation, and the hedge witch was respected. Also, she was still on the outside of the community, so it was really a 1 foot in, 1 foot out, both literally and then also metaphysically, because she rode the hedge between the shamanic world of astral travel and magic and the mundane, as she gathered her herbs and worked in nature and had her hands in the soil. You're very grounded when you work with the earth. And that's what makes sense for me as I plant, and I have chickens and goats and 4 kids, and I find an earth-based sensibility in my daily life, in my business practice, and as I raise my kids, and in my spirituality. It just makes sense for me.